7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Hello everybody, I'm your host Ashton, and welcome back to The Sound of Fear, the show where we break down the sounds that make your blood run cold. It's our job to find out which songs bring the fear and which ones fall flat. In today's episode, we're heading to the circus from another world. We're covering the score from Killer Klowns from Outer Space, an all-time classic. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. A little background information before we start because this film starts quick. Killer Klowns from Outer Space was created by three brothers, Stephen, Charles, and Edward Kyoto. The three wanted to make a slasher movie that wasn't just an average person killing young people. So with inspiration from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, the trio made an icon of a horror movie consisting of otherworldly creatures killing people in ridiculous ways. Initially, the film saw very little success, especially in the box office. However, in the nearly 4 decades since its release, Killer Klowns from Outer Space has become nothing less than a cult classic. The Kyoto brothers had help, as they brought on composer John Massari to create the score for the film that truly sold it. Now with all that known, let's get to the actual movie. The film starts and we already get our first track, titled Killer Klowns. I told you guys, this film gets right into it. Funny enough, this first track is the one and only track that was not composed by John Massari. It was actually created by a band called the Dickies. The full song is actually really good, and it's unironically in my playlist. The song ends and we see the top of the world, your average 80s makeout spot. And we get introduced to our first characters, Mike Tobacco and Debbie Stone. The quiet scene is quickly interrupted as a clown-themed ice cream truck barrels up the hill. These are the Terenzi brothers, Mike's best friends and absolute idiots. They're some of the best side characters in any horror movie ever, and I will stand by that statement. The pair quickly get ran out of makeout point by the couples for trying to sell some ice cream. Genuine question, why the hell are these two in a blow-up raft? Like, are these not the ones that they use on like airplanes if they crash in the ocean? Am I wrong? Mike and Debbie lay back to take in the stars when something zooms overhead and lands in the forest. Farmer Gene Green and his dog Pooh Bear, who live out in the woods, also saw the thing fall out of the sky and think it's Halley's Comet. Thinking they're gonna make a fortune, Farmer Gene and Pooh Bear head out to look for the crash site. Back at Lover's Landing, Debbie basically begs Mike to go out and look for it, which he begrudgingly agrees. Farmer Gene and Pooh Bear make their way through the woods, but instead of finding a crash site, they find the circus. Isn't that convenient? Hoping to get some free passes, the two head down to the tent with our next track titled Hidden Clown Ship. While Farmer Gene isn't looking, something reaches out of the tent and snatches Pooh Bear with a net. Farmer Gene is done messing around and he wants his dog back.
I'll tear this thing apart with my bare hands!
After getting electrocuted, Farmer Gene looks up to see our first clown, Jumbo! To which Jumbo proceeds to immediately shoot Farmer Gene with a ray gun. Back in town, we get to see the police station where we meet Dave Hansen, a police officer, and his fellow police officer, Curtis Mooney. Mooney comes flying into the police station ready to lock up a couple of college kids, and he is way too excited to arrest them. Dave and Mooney have very different ideals, and Mooney has little to no respect for Dave, because he's younger and actually went to police academy despite them being equals. Out in the woods, Mike and Debbie drive until the road ends and they head out on foot, looking for whatever fell from the sky. Making their way through the trees, the pair find the same tent that Farmer Gene saw, and Debbie has the most sane reaction of all time and says, "Let's not go there." Mike convinces Debbie to check it out, and the couple head into the tent with our next track titled Mike and Debbie's Discovery. The couple find a green door at the end of a hallway and fall into it, only to find the same pit that Darth Vader threw Emperor Palpatine into. Running back into the hallway, Debbie realizes that they found their shooting star and that they're standing in it. The pair hear footsteps coming from around the corner and duck into another room to hide. Inside is even more bizarre architecture with popcorn flying and cotton candy hanging from hooks. Debbie is still really freaked out, but Mike doesn't really seem to care.
I've never seen anything like this before. Have you?
No.
Grabbing a handful of cotton candy, Mike reveals the bloody face of a guy, but before they can react, the door to the room swings open and another clown walks in carrying a cotton candy cocoon. The two duck behind some machinery to hide and wait until the clown's back is turned to try and escape. But before they make it to the door, Mike freaks out after seeing someone he knows in a cocoon. He alerts the clown, starting our next track titled Escape from the Clown Ship. Escaping the tent, the two get shot with popcorn guns because, well, clowns like popcorn. The clowns make a dog out of balloons and use it to track Mike and Debbie's scent through the woods. This movie is so freaking awesome, dude. I just love it. Our dynamic duo makes it to the car just in time, and we're even able to ram a few clowns on the way out for good measure. The town of Crescent Cove is no longer safe as the circus has come to town, bringing along with it our next track titled Killer Clown March. Back at the police station, Dave hears someone doing a burnout outside, only to see Mike and Debbie rear-end his car. This is where we find out that Dave is Debbie's ex-boyfriend, but he's a good guy, so he still wants to help out. On the other side of town, we see a clown walking down the sidewalk with a chopped up version of Killer Clown March. He sees a couple girls, and before they notice him, he decides to stand still and pretend to be an animatronic Halloween decoration. Back at the police station, Mike and Debbie are desperately trying to explain what they saw. Dave rightfully has a hard time believing the two, but at least he's trying, unlike Mooney, who immediately wants to kill the two because they're under the age of 30. Dave finally agrees to help the two and go check it out, while Mooney tells him not to make a fool of himself.
But you're not gonna make a dummy out of me.
Possible foreshadowing. At the park in town, a guy finds a live puppet show, and we get our next track titled Galactic Globe Theater. Dave tells Debbie that she's not coming with them to check it out because it's too dangerous and that they're going to drop her off at her place. Meanwhile, the clowns are doing what they do best. Their hijinks are accompanied again by Killer Clown March. The three of them get to Debbie's house to drop her off, and she tries to tell Mike that she's going to sneak out and follow them up there, but even Mike knows that's a bad idea. He tells her to stay put, lock the doors, don't let anybody in. We also get to see these clowns tearing up a drugstore. Mike takes Dave to the crash site, only to find that the entire thing is gone, and we get our next track titled The Empty Forest. Thinking they made the whole thing up, Dave puts Mike in handcuffs and takes him back to the car. Somewhere on the bad part of town, we see a bunch of bikers hanging out, when out of the fog comes a little bitty clown on his own little bitty bike, probably wanting to join their club. One of the bikers comes over and starts messing with Shorty and smashes his bike into little bitty pieces. Shorty jumps up into the sky and comes back down with a pair of boxing gloves. He uppercuts the guy with our next track titled Knock My Block Off. We next hit the creepiest scene of the movie, where we see a clown try and lure a little girl out of a restaurant. Along with this, we get another new track called Little Girl Too Close. Up at the top of the world, Dave and Mike see that something's very wrong. All the cars are abandoned. We get our next track titled Top of the World. Dave finds one of the cars completely filled with cotton candy and starts to think that maybe Debbie and Mike weren't lying. Back at the police station, our favorite cop is doing his duty of hanging up on people who call about killer clowns. You'd think with how many people are calling about the same thing, he'd be a little bit concerned, but no, he just thinks the whole town is playing a prank on him. We get even more clown carnage when we see a guy driving down the highway and the clown Slim drives up next to him on his invisible motorcycle. We also get our next track titled Muscle Clown Car. At Debbie's house, we see her getting ready to take a shower because she's still covered in the popcorn from earlier. But this might not be normal popcorn. We get our next track titled Growing Corn as we see the clown Jumbo sprinkling some popcorn into the dumpster behind the burger shop. An unlucky employee gets sent to take out the garbage and gets pulled into the dumpster by whatever is in there. Mike and Dave are driving around town when they see Slim at a bus stop performing a shadow puppet show. The two spot the clown, but not before he makes his move. We get our next track titled Shadow Show. Mike freaks out and grabs the wheel to try and run Slim down, but before they can, Slim jumps into the sky and disappears. Dave calls Mooney and tells him to call the state police, but now Mooney thinks Dave is in on the ruse and that the whole town is trying to run him off the police force. Every single person in town came together, made a plan to force a single police officer off the police force using killer clowns. This man is absolutely insane. Down the road, the Terenzi brothers come running out of an alleyway, chasing their ice cream truck. Mike and Dave decide to split up. Mike, following his friends, are going to go around town warning people about the clowns, while Dave is going to go back to the station to contact the state police. Paul and Rich are initially skeptical about the killer clowns, but agree to help Mike when he promises them Debbie's roommates, who have big boobs. His words, not mine.
Yes, she's got two. She's got two beautiful roommates with big boobs.
At the police station, Mooney gets a visitor when the clown Jumbo shuffles in. We get our next track titled Officer Mooney. This guy doesn't deserve his own track, let's be real. Mooney arrests Jumbo, or at least he tries. He throws Jumbo in the slammer, but as he does, he smacks him in the back of the head. Big mistake. Jumbo uses a big party blower to grab Mooney by the neck and slam him into the bars, killing him. Oh yeah, and he got locked in the same cell as this guy and the other guy who looks like Morrissey from the Smiths. Dave shows up to the police station, but it's too late. The power's out, and red footprints dot the floor, ceiling, and walls. We get our next track titled Dave in the Aftermath. Both guys in the cell got cocooned, which means the Morrissey-looking guy is dead. This is actually foreshadowing to real life, as the Smiths would go on to break up over clown-related issues. Back on the office, Jumbo waits, sitting with what is really a creepy scene in a mostly comedic movie. Mooney has been turned into a puppet, and Jumbo is using him as a ventriloquist dummy. We also get our next track, rightfully titled Ventriloquist Mooney. Jumbo gets up, and for the first time in the movie, we see a clown acting like an actual horror villain. And it's pretty creepy. Dave starts blasting, but nothing is stopping Jumbo. That is, until he lands a perfect shot, popping the clown's nose. Jumbo starts spinning until he completely explodes. Dave figured it out. The clowns are practically invincible unless you pop their noses. Dave is finally able to get a hold of the state police, and for the first time in the movie, somebody believes him without a second thought. The dispatcher heard clowns and sent all available units. Back in the ice cream truck, the three round a corner and run straight into a clown parade. A giant vacuum drives down the street, sucking up all the cocoons as the clowns go door to door getting everybody. You know, for a space traveling species, they really aren't very effective. Like, how are they supposed to take over the world when there's like maybe 30 or 40 of them and they just go door to door getting one person at a time? They're basically just evil Mormons. Or normal Mormons, depending on what you think. The parade has its own track titled The Inevitable Part 1. Seeing a guy get blasted right in front of them, the ice cream men turn tail and run as fast as they can in the other direction. Debbie, finally out of the shower, hears something coming from her medicine cabinet. Could it be alien popcorn babies? She opens her hamper, and baby killer clowns jump out to attack her, with our next track titled The Inevitable Part 2. With these being baby killer clowns, it raises a lot of questions being, what is the popcorn, and how are new killer clowns actually made? But we don't do biology here, so shit out of luck. Escaping the baby clowns, Debbie runs to the door and hears Mike on the other side. Uh-oh. She tries to jump out the window, but the fire team are there to catch her. The clowns capture Debbie and lock her in a clown balloon. Man, it's one thing that they kidnapped her to eat her, but then they also TP'd her house, and this stuff won't even dissolve in the rain. The ice cream team shows up just in time to see the clown car drive away with Debbie and her balloon tied to the back. We get our next track titled Debbie's Been Caught. During the chase, they get spotted by Dave, who starts following the ice cream truck. Thinking they're getting pulled over, Paul slams on the brakes, causing Dave to rear end the ice cream truck, totaling his car. Mike tells Dave that the clowns got Debbie, and without a second thought, Dave grabs his shotgun and they hop in the ice cream truck. Our four heroes travel to the only place that evil alien clowns would hide, the amusement park. At the amusement park, a security guard is having his lunch break when the Clownmobile pulls up. To no one's surprise, about half a dozen clowns hop out with our next track titled Amusement Park or Death Pies. The clowns take Debbie inside, with Shorty putting a nice finishing touch on the whole scene. The four arrive at the funhouse and walk inside without realizing that it's connected to the killer clown spaceship. Walking into enemy territory, we get our next track titled The Funhouse Part 1. Deeper and deeper into the funhouse they go, and just as Dave is about to open a door, the floor opens up beneath Rich and Paul and they fall into a ball pit. The other two realize that the brothers are gone, but they don't seem too worried. They'll be fine. Oh no. Deeper still into the ship, and we get our next track titled The Funhouse Part 2. Mike leads Dave into the freezer room where they keep all the bodies, and by the looks of it, they've been busy. The two are looking for Debbie's balloon when the door opens and in walks Chubby the clown. Luckily, the two hide before they get seen. Chubby waddles over to a cocoon, checks if it's ripe, and pulls out a comically large silly straw and sucks all the blood out of it. Turns out they really were here for the food. The two guys find Debbie, but the only way for them to get her out of the balloon is to shoot it open. With the entire ship hearing that gunshot, the three start running for an exit, with our next track titled Escape into Clown Cathedral. Running through the multicolor hallways, Dave covers their back, shooting as many clowns as he can. I know they're clowns, and like the whole funhouse vibe is their whole thing, but this has to be extremely inconvenient to live in. The door frames are always moving, there's a sarlacc pit at the bottom of the pole, the hallways are full of balloons. Like what the hell, how do you know where you need to go to be on time? The three make it to a door, which has another door behind it, and another one, etc. But once they finally get through, they end up in the middle of a wide open room. All of a sudden, clowns start pouring into the room from the shadows, armed with baseball bats and golf clubs. They are accompanied by our next track, titled Clownfrontation. The three start climbing away, but without any weapons, it's not looking too good for them. When out of nowhere, the ice cream truck breaks through one of the walls. Rich and Paul are alive. The two trick the clowns by pretending that the clown on top of their ice cream truck is one of them and commands them to let them go. Somehow, the trick works and they all get in the ice cream truck, but of course it won't start. The clowns all look up to the ceiling and we get our next track titled Truck Escape and Clownzilla. Clownzilla is lowered down from the ceiling and immediately goes after the truck. Dave yells for everyone to get to safety, but the Terenzi brothers stay because it's a rental. Clownzilla picks up the ice cream truck and throws it across the room. It hits one of the walls and explodes randomly like it's a SpongeBob episode. Dave says that they can escape now through the hole in the wall, and he tells Mike to take Debbie and get her out of here. He's gonna stay behind and distract Clownzilla. Mike and Debbie make it out just in time to see the big top flying saucer begin to take off. Still inside, Dave's climactic battle with Clownzilla is accompanied by our final track of the movie titled Final Clownfrontation and Reunion. Kind of a mouthful. The police show up just in time to meet up with Mike and Debbie as the clown ship takes flight. Fighting for his life, Dave is able to grab his badge and poke Clownzilla's nose, popping it. The explosion from Clownzilla dying is so large that it blows up the entire ship and takes all the other clowns with it. Debbie and Mike embrace each other, heartbroken over the fact that Dave was still on the ship. When out of nowhere, the clown car comes falling from the sky. But instead of a clown stepping out, it's Dave! Mike and Debbie run over and thank him for saving them. Dave's not the only one in the car, as Rich and Paul also both made it by hiding in the freezer of the truck when it exploded. All 5 of our heroes survived the invasion of the killer clowns. Debbie asks if it's really over, and Mike says it's gotta be. The trio gets pelted with pies, and the track Killer Klowns by the Dickies plays once again as we go to the credits. Once again, I can't express how hard that song by the Dickies goes. You all need to listen to that song as soon as this video ends. That's your homework. What is there to say about Killer Klowns from Outer Space that hasn't already been said? It's a cult classic and one of the funniest horror movies you can find. We highly recommend this for people who want to get into horror movies, but are having trouble because they're just a bit too scared. Well, without further ado, let's get on to the Staff Stars, where we here at The Sound of Fear share what we thought about the movie.
For Killer Klowns from Outer Space, we have our ratings as follows.
We want to thank you all so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the movie and the amazing score that supports it. And as always, we'll see you guys next time.